Well, good morning, everybody. It is an absolute pleasure for me and a delight that you're all here. So many faces I know, so many faces I don't know. But I look forward to talking to you all maybe at lunchtime. Are you getting hungry? A little bit. Okay, so this is an amazing process, the liberating leadership process, which we are sharing with you. But we have to actually start before the vision. Everything starts before the vision. So we have to, before I can even talk to you about the mobilizing phase, which is the second stage of the process, I just need to talk to you about the mindset we have to be in, because leaders can't just be in any old mindset to lead. We need something really special. Now, this mindset, high challenge and high support, many of you will have come across before. Hands up who has come across high challenge and high support as a concept before. So just a few of you. Interesting. I thought more hands would go up. This is the mindset we need, and I'm going to get you to help me here. So can you just imagine what might be going on in an organization where you have very high support going on and very low challenge? Maybe it's the organization you're in at the moment, but what happens when there's very high support and very low challenge? Sonia, come on. Slow pace, fantastic. What else? Boring. Nothing happens. Apathy.
Your staff feel engaged but not involved.
Absolutely right. So staff engaged but not involved. Super. Anything else? Well, you've done really, really well. So we call this the place of comfort. People are never, ever challenged to be the best they can be. It's all very nice. It can be very boring, but it can also just be nice. You're coasting along. You get mediocre performance in that place. So now tell me about the opposite. This is an organization where there's really high challenge going on, but really low support. What's going on here? Anxiety. Sorry, what was that? Stress. What else?
Blame.
Sorry?
Culture of blame.
Culture of blame, absolutely.
Mistakes.
Sorry, say that again? Resentment, yes. Mistakes. What else? Very competitive. So what we notice in this place, it is really stressful. Typically you get a very high staff turnover. Some people might rise to the challenge if you're lucky, so you get random high performance at best. But generally it's all over the place. And if we make absolutely massive generalizations, typically private sector here and public sector up there, that's what we notice. But those are huge generalizations. We're not even going to bother talking about this place of low challenge and low support, because there it's apathy. If you're in that situation, I suggest you get out of it right now. It's a really unhealthy place to be. Nobody's in that place right now, are they? You wouldn't admit to it now anyway, would you? So tell me about this place where you get the perfect balance of high challenge and high support going on. Motivating. Innovative. Engaged. What else? Team talk. Inspiring, did you say? Super. Stimulating. Adventurous. I am loving these words.
So teams form naturally and no one resents heroes.
Absolutely right. Teams form naturally and no one resents heroes. Super. Anything else? Experimental. I love that. Yeah. Because this is the place you can grow. This is a beautiful place. This is where we get excellence. With high challenge, high support, where they meet, we get teams that have tremendous respect and trust for each other. We get commitment and consistent high achievement and development in this place. So you know the only place to be is to have high challenge and high support in powerful and equal combination. I can't tell you, though, how intensely difficult it is to actually do that. And we have a beautiful, beautiful questionnaire that measures you on that balance. And what we find when we go into organizations, if we do that questionnaire at the beginning, then we can go back a few months later when they've been trying it out, and we can measure them again and see the absolute difference, the return that we're getting. So high challenge and high support, this whole process has to run with high challenge, high support, bubbling away underneath. So now, we're going on to the mobilizing stage. When I view the 4-step process for liberating leadership, I'm actually imagining some steps. So if we imagine steps leading up to this little stage, and we've got 4 steps, Mark has just beautifully taken us through the visioning stage. That's the first step, the visioning stage. But we all know that vision without action is just a dream, isn't it? Isn't it? So in the mobilizing stage, the second step, we actually have to take action. This is the place of action. What do you think mobilizing means? Engagement. What else? Planning. Fantastic. Say that again. Implementation. Perfect. Yes, so this mobilizing stage, well, I often view the mobilizing stage as we are mobilizing the troops. We are getting them going. We are giving them the wherewithal. So when we are mobilizing the troops, and if we actually imagine, are there any army leaders in the room? One over there, fantastic. Well, you can correct me with this analogy if I go a bit wrong. But I imagine if I was a leader in an army, I would set the strategy, the why we're doing the thing, understand the purpose. I would be deciding how we're going to get there. I'd be deciding who, what, where, and when I need at a particular time. The important thing is to get the troop all to the goal at the same time. We don't want to lose any of these little fellas along the way, do we? So when we are mobilizing people to get going, there are a set of 5 skills which really help us at this stage. The first skill is to be really, really explicit. So if we're really clear about what we need people to do, it gives them tremendous confidence. Leaders are not generally very explicit. We also need to be assertive, because in this place it would be no good if we said, oh, would you mind going over there? No, in this place it's much more directional, and we say we are going over there and we're going now. So that's you being assertive. You also need to be really good at giving feedback all the time so people know that they're on track. You need to be great at maintaining momentum, because when you maintain momentum, you can keep them going even when times get tough. And finally, you need to be really good at nipping performance issues in the bud. So those are a brief look at the skills. So now, with explicitness, sometimes you can get it badly wrong. So, just have another little.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 6. 1, 2, 3. 7. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
So explicitness is not always easy, and we go into that deeply during the training. So now the second skill of being assertive. Well, when you understand the whole process, you'll know that being assertive is the only place to be. But we also know that possibly according to our personality type, some of us find being assertive that much more difficult than other people. And quite a lot of the time when we're asking people what their worst skill is, they often say it's being assertive. But if we're being assertive, we are standing up for ourselves in a way which also is honouring the other person. And very briefly, we know that if we are too aggressive, it's too much about me, me, me. And if we're too passive, it's too much about you, you, you. And in this place of being appropriately assertive, we have us together. And together we aspire, don't we? So then a very, very useful model to bear in mind at this stage to help leaders through the mobilizing phase is the onion model. Has anybody come across an onion model before? Some of the practitioners at the back are putting their hand up. So we use this onion model, and I like the onion because an onion is like a person. Do you think? Well, I think we are like an onion because every single onion is unique, and so are we. And an onion is built up of very many layers, and so are we, aren't we? So actually, you have all been sitting down for about an hour, haven't you? So what I'd like you to do is all stand on your feet for a minute, and what I'd like you to do is just turn to the person next to you and say, hello, onion, and turn to the person on the other side, say, hello, onion. Turn to the person behind, hello, onion. And all sit down again. Thank you. So I'd advise you not to tell anybody that bit when you go home and they say, what did you do today, you know? But with an onion, right, and indeed with us, right at our very core is our personality. Would you agree? Right at the core is the essence of who we are. It's the thing we were born with, that we came into the world with. And it's nothing to do with anybody else, what our personality is like. That is just for us. Nobody else needs to tamper with that. Very near in the layers around the personality, we get these layers of values. And these are the things we believe, the things we grow up with, maybe the values from our parents, from our grandparents, from their parents, from our school, from our environment, from our country. We decide very early on how we want to live our lives, and we choose the standards we want to live by. Now, if you challenge anybody at the level of values, you're likely to get a very heated response. We don't challenge somebody, for instance, on their religion or even the football team they support, because it can get into fisticuffs, can't it? So we don't need to go there. As leaders, when we're trying to drive high performance, we don't need to worry about the personality, someone's personality or values, because typically leaders we find inherit teams, and they're full of all sorts of different people, aren't they? Very rarely do you get to hand-pick a team with people who share your values, have the same sense of purpose, and you get going, and it's very, very dynamic if you do, but then it's very hard to keep, because as that team grows, things change again, don't they? So we're always having to deal with a myriad of personalities in our team. Nearer to the outer edge, we have layers which are much more amenable to change. So we have attitudes. Now, attitudes can change in a moment. There is a beautiful story in the Liberating Leadership book by the great Stephen Covey when he's sitting on a New York subway. I'm not going to tell you that story because I always cry if I tell that story. But you'll need to read it because it's really beautiful. But just to give you a more bland example of how attitudes change, if I say went to a supermarket, go to a supermarket to get my shopping, and the shelves are always messy and the staff are always miserable, I might have a really jaded attitude towards that supermarket. But now if they suddenly have a makeover, and now all the shelves are immaculate when I go, and I can find everything, and there's been a customer service revolution, and now the staff are all happy, smiling and engaged, I can change my attitude about that place in an instant. Really easy. And then on the outer edge, we have behaviors. Now, behaviors are very open to change. I can choose to change my behavior anytime I want, especially if you give me feedback. I can do that really, really easily. So the important thing with this onion for us leaders, if you just peel away the outer layers a bit, it doesn't cause too much distress. But the deeper you cut in, the more it makes you and them cry. Just like with an onion. So we say to leaders, all you have to comment on is attitude or behavior. Is the person behaving right now or not? Are they coming in at the right time, getting their stuff done? And is their attitude okay? Their attitude towards you, their colleagues, their work, our customers? Makes giving feedback really easy. Is this making sense? Yeah? So then it all comes together into a beautiful, beautiful competency wheel. And in this wheel, we have at the center always this solid hub of high challenge, high support. We have our overall sense of process so that we know where we are with each person at each stage of their development. And we have the 15 skills that are needed throughout the liberating leadership process they make up the spokes. But you can imagine if you just got hold of the process and you understood the skills and you thought, right, I'm going to do these, and you didn't have this strong hub of high challenge, high support, positive regard, genuineness, trust and respect, there would be nothing to anchor your skills to. Nothing, which is why that mindset must underpin everything. So we find that we are constantly going through this 4-step process. Sometimes we're going forward and back really quickly. The idea is to get everybody round to the enabled stage as fast as you can, because when they are all enabled and empowered, it's a beautiful, beautiful place and frees you up to do all the marketing and the strategy you need to do. Now, the thing about this mobilizing phase is it is the toughest one of all. It takes a lot of your time as leader. Just going back there are 5 competencies in the mobilizing stage. There aren't 5 competencies anywhere else. It is easily the toughest stage for the leader because you have to be there all the time, giving the feedback, being explicit, maintaining momentum, sorting out any performance issues. Oh, I meant to show you actually. We have a super cool process for sorting out performance issues. Anybody in the room who is as old as me will remember Haynes manuals. Does anybody remember Hey! So my dad used to have a whole row of Haynes manuals on the shelf, and it's the how-to manual for things like rewiring your house. Heaven forbid, we can't do that anymore, can we? Or how to mend a puncture on your bicycle. It told you exactly step by step how to do that thing. Well, people have likened this to the Haynes manual on a page for managing people. And when Mark saw this as in the A3 format, he said, Ali, that is game-changing. And it is so game-changing. And if I do a sales presentation, some of my potential clients just say to me, Ali, can I just buy that? That is beautiful. Because HR managers love it, because they think if all managers would follow a process for managing people, it would stop all this hiring and firing, it would stop all the tribunals we're having. That's magic. Can we just have it? And because so many people kept saying to me, can we just have it? I decided to put it as a free download on my website. But I figured all you in the room wouldn't want to go to the hassle of going onto my website to download it. So I've popped a copy of this in an envelope under your seat. So I'd invite you now to open it. And just have a chat to the person next to you about what you're seeing. The really important thing about this chart is the very end comment. If you start doing it, you have to identify solution, act on it, and follow through consistently. Follow through consistently. So if you start it, you can't stop. This is a process, a continuous process, helping this person to achieve more than they've ever achieved before. And if you are going to do a process like this consistently, you need tremendous resilience. And we're going to do another showcase in November, on the 17th of November, with my lovely friend Bird at the back, who's standing there on her phone. She's not paying attention. No, she's filming. Because she is the queen of resilience, and she will be helping for you to develop your resilience as a leader, because this, you need to breathe deeply and just start doing it. But when organizations do, they have tremendous bottom line returns, like reducing their sickness and absenteeism rate, slashing their recruitment budget, because now their people are so much better at doing what they do, so it's lovely. So now, the best view does come after the hardest climb. If you do the rigor of the process, the rewards come, and the rewards come like this. And I'm delighted to showcase here my lovely client, Colleen Wiltshire of Orman Hall. She's the HR manager of Orman Hall. And they have been running the Liberating Leadership Program for about the last year and a bit. And they have just recently, in the last couple of weeks, won the Small Business Award for their excellence in customer and staff care. So that's amazing, isn't it? So should we give her a round of applause? But the really, really exciting thing is that Colleen has been going through the Liberating Leadership Accreditation. Up until now, I have been delivering all the training in Orman Hall. But now Colleen is accredited. I've just marked her confirmation of learning paper. And I'm thrilled to say she has passed with flying colours. So now she can go deliver this to her people and all those new managers coming in. So Colleen, would you like to come and collect your Liberating Leadership Practitioner Certificate?
Thank you, Annie. Thanks so much.
And do talk to her about the really exciting work that Orman Hall are doing. They're the most fast-moving, dynamic company that I've ever come across. They're growing at a rate of knots. Ask them how they're doing it.
Thank you.
So we haven't just got one client who's really good at it. I'm going to introduce you to another client. So I'm going to call Mike Young to the stage, because Mike is not only an area manager of 9 CEX stores across London. He's an area manager. He's also a liberating leadership practitioner, and he's been putting this into practice. So Mike, come up here, please. Over to you.
Hello everyone. I've got to say, everyone that's been up here, if you notice, they've been smiling, and it's all your little faces here. You look much better from this side than the other side. So I took the course with Ali going back to January 2016. I didn't choose to do the course. I was put onto the course by the people I work with. I was really sceptical at first. It wasn't the kind of thing I believed in. By the end of the 3 days, I completely turned around my thought, and since then it's become an everyday part of my life. So what I do, I work for a company called CX. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may not. We sell laptops, we buy and sell phones, electronic stuff, things like that. I work within a franchise group of these stores. So I've got 9 stores I look after. I've got about 100 employees altogether. The challenges are really that about 80% of these people are under 25. We don't operate on any uniform code in the company. So we don't have any discrimination against piercings, hair colours, tattoos, anything like that. So anyone can come and work for us, basically. Also, within my franchise, we don't operate any bonus scheme or anything like that. So basically, the only rewards that I can get people really moving on, apart from their normal pay, is the intrinsic rewards. So the soft skills for me in my position to get my teams mobilised is the absolute key. It's the only thing I have got to offer these people. Okay, so without liberating leadership, I think I wouldn't have progressed as quickly. I wouldn't have progressed as comfortably. And I think the same for my company. We wouldn't have progressed the same. It would have been really much more uncomfortable. So, I mean, it's fine me saying that. So I'll give you some examples. So it's not my day job, excuse the paper, all right? So yeah, I've got a store that I've got in Hampshire, and it's been going a few years, and we hired, this is a while ago, we hired a manager, and he was a lovely guy. Immediately got on with the team. He got on with everyone, all the kids loved him, and I loved him as well. I thought he was a great guy. So, but he really struggled operationally to start. I could see that he did have it in him, but he was really struggling to get his hands on things. So we started working on him. And now with him, he was in such a high challenge, high sport situation, I needed to see him a lot. And I'm busy, so I made sure that even if I just popped in for half an hour or an hour, all I could do to make sure that I was acknowledging him and I was giving him small little incremental bits of feedback at a time, small little steps to help him build. And so this carried on, you know, and I trained him, and he slowly picked up the pace, and he got better and better. And the team started to work better underneath him. I thought, great, you know. About 8-9 months down the line, he really started to get it, and he started to train himself. He moved on to the next stage. You know, he was really doing well. And then he got another job. So, but the great thing was, and it was really out of the blue. Before, I'd always been in the kind of the old-fashioned way of if someone hands in their resignation, they're off the team before they've even left. You know, as soon as it's like it's a nasty thing to do to leave a company. And before, I'd kind of had that programmed into me, but this time, completely different. I was so happy with the guy. I'd seen actually the training that I'd given him, and it actually benefited me to see him grow all the way through this. So you know, when he said, "Look, I've got another job," I was hugs, kisses. You know, really wished him on the way. But the real magic was, about a week or so afterwards, the supervisor just approached me really casually, and I hadn't even put an advert out for a new manager. And they said, "Look, I really want to step up, you know, take the management job for myself." So I was really happy, and I started to ask why, you know, why did you step up like this? And they said basically they knew that the support would be there, because they'd seen me running around sometimes like a blue-ass fly trying to get to the store all the time, and even if it was just to touch base and give a small bit of feedback, just a tiny bit that was needed, they had seen that I'd done this for the manager. So therefore, they thought that they could go out and do this. You know, they weren't gonna be in the dark without a torch. They'd know that whatever challenges come, that I'm gonna be there with them. And what was really beautiful was about a week later, 2 of the sales assistants stepped up and asked to be supervisors because the same thing. They felt safety within a challenging environment, which was really, really, you know, I'd got to a point there. Another wonderful example is I took over a store January this year, and out of the 9 stores I've got, 6 of them are kind of organic. We grew them, you know, I recruited the whole team. We built a store. We started from scratch. We worked our way up. This one was actually from another owner. It was someone else that owned a franchise store, and then it had been taken on for a couple of months in the interim by the corporation. But during the time as the franchise store, rarely you'll see a franchisee in a shop. You know, that's not kind of idea. But the guy who was a franchisee, his wife used to sit behind the counter constantly, 7 days a week for the poor staff. Now these are like retail environments, they're all till counter, people being served, big queues, things like that. And she would sit there and she would tell them not to do refunds and tell them not to do this and tell them not to do that. So they were literally like walking on eggshells kind of thing. They'd have no love and support from them. They did have no training on how to deal with people. They just basically wanted a key holder to open and close and do the job. And then obviously they got taken on in the interim by the corporation, which held the store over the Christmas period until we got it. Now we got the store. Now the first reaction and advice that I got was sack the lot of them, clean the team out. Okay, there's poison there, you know, it's been this long. And bearing in mind, one of these guys, the actual manager there, has worked there for 6 years. Now, I nodded, as you do when you work for someone, you know, you grit your teeth and nod and say, okay. But that wasn't what I did. My first port of call was to build a relationship with these people. And that was the sole first thing I could do. I needed, you know, positive regard. I needed them to know that I thought they were amazing, you know, and I was there to support them. But I needed that from them as well, you know, to make this work, and especially in such a high challenge environment as that, to get things going, we both had to really like each other and, you know, value each other as they were. So the first thing was just to go in, and before I even changed any start to any operations or anything, you know, I made a really, really strong bond with these guys and started moving from there. Now, thanks to the Liberating Leadership course, obviously, because the amount of changes and taking over a company like that and being under pressure to do it quickly, it's going to be a lot of changes. And we all know that changes can be horrific, scary things, and especially in a situation like that. So thanks to the Liberated Leadership, I was able to predict on the wave of change, like when these guys, how they'll feel, you know. First of all, when the first shock happens, and then they feel totally helpless, you know, they feel in denial. I was able to pinpoint all of these points throughout, and I was ready to be there, and I could be appropriately assertive. Certain points where I didn't want to be so assertive, but I wanted to be really supportive. But I think the knowledge of this helped me push through a lot quicker, and again, it's helped the performance get back where it needs to be straight away. The store is actually doing fine now, and the guys are fairly happy. Now, the real one I wanted to tell you about, because Ali has always found this quite interesting, and it's not really to do with the mobilising stage, but it's a little bit of something, and especially you guys, anyone who works for someone, you know, and occasionally it's not easy, you'll probably appreciate this, and this is something completely given to me from the course. I work with the owners of the franchise. I work with one guy very closely. It's the only one I work with out of all the investors. As a person, I absolutely adore the guy and I love him dearly. As a boss, a little bit different. So this came into January. We just had the retail season. Now, obviously, the Christmas season for retail, obviously, is horrific. It's a lot of stress. It's the whole aim of the year is the Christmas season. So that passed, and we had a very bad relationship. He was really nasty to me, just when I didn't need it. And there was a whole thing in the air about my job description, what I was supposed to be doing, my pay, which is obviously a sensitive point always, everything, you know. And so I was pushing for a meeting before I had some time off, and I was pushing for about 3 weeks, and I didn't get the meeting. And the only time that I got to have the meeting was 8 o'clock in the night at the bottom of a multi-storey car park. This is in January, freezing cold. He was angry. He was really blunt. He wouldn't listen to me, to the point where I actually stopped the meeting. I didn't tell him I stopped the meeting, but I knew this was not right. There was no "I'm okay, you're okay" here at all. So I just kind of let him carry on and go away with it. Now I got in my car, and again, this is the way that the Liberated Leadership has made me change a bit. I got in the car, and normally, I think, going back a few years, I would have been swearing and punching the dashboard and driving down the road at 100 miles an hour. But for some reason, I didn't. And the first thing I thought was, why? Just why was he being like that with me? You know, like I say, I love the guy. We do have a good relationship. But he was horrible. And it was that he was lost. He was actually himself in a really, really high challenge situation with no support. And the way he was treating me, it was just, it was an offshoot of that. You know, the only thing that I could do then was just to support him until he found his feet with the whole thing. But the liberating leadership, without that, I think this whole situation would have been a lot more stressful for me, possibly to the point where I would have left the company. I wouldn't be here now. Well, maybe I'd be here now, but I wouldn't be working for the same people now, you know. And that's really tragic if you think about it, because I can hand on my heart say I put my whole life into the company, you know. I'm not an investor. I'm PAYE, you know, and I really, really, really work hard for this. So, yeah, I mean, really, the thing I want to get across to you is that the liberating leadership has really helped me, not only in mobilising, but making my life less stressful and happier. It's really funny because it's kind of crept into other parts. Like I say, all my staff are under 25 pretty much, most of them. And of course, you get people working together, they get relationships. And there's been a couple of times now where I think I've managed to save Love's young dream, basically, by explaining the OK Corral and explaining that, you know, if you ever want to have a positive meeting with someone with a positive output of a meeting, you have to both be, I'm okay, you're okay. You know, you can't go in without actually having positive regard for someone in a meeting and expect a good result afterwards. It won't happen. So that's it, really. I'd want to thank you lot for listening, and look at all your little faces. It's really good up here, isn't it? And I want to thank Ali as well, because honestly, the impact, aside from my career and everything, and that is literally hand on heart, it's made my life better and my relationships with people better. So thank you.
Thank you. Wasn't that amazing? That is us through now, the mobilising phase. So I'm going to just hand you back to Amanda, because I think we're just cracking on for lunch now, aren't we, Amanda?